Without further ado, I'm happy to welcome tonight's guest. Frank Daly is a wellness coach, public speaker, and author who lives in Ahwatukee. In addition to his writing for Eden Magazine and other publications, he offers insight through his blog called Daily Wisdom, and he regularly delivers interactive workshops. His new book is called Enjoy the Ride, but I'll let him tell you more than that. Please help me welcome Frank Daly to Changing Hands. With a round of applause.
Thanks, everyone. How are we doing today?
Great.
I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Okay, enjoy the ride. This book it kind of helps you get to better know your inner guidance system. And because enjoy the ride is a nice phrase, but the word enjoy actually is a natural state of being. You remember when you were a child, you didn't have to be taught how to enjoy things. There was no thing you had to do. You just went out to the park, climbed a tree. You weren't told you had to do it to gain the joy. The joy was just a natural state. So I'm going to help you reacquaint, because when we were children, we had what we call innocence. And after we started gaining some knowledge, we gained contrast, and we kind of stepped away from the joy that we now desire. But through that, you can never regain the understanding of innocence. But what we can do through wisdom, we can actually get back there. So this book actually helps guide you to there. It's a self-guiding book. And so the main focus I'm going to talk tonight on the book is our internal guidance system. And in the book, I reference a GPS system. All right, so the internal guidance system is just like a GPS, but the GPS is a mere fractal of our inner guidance system. In order for people, engineers, to actually create the GPS system, they had to understand their internal guidance system to some level, because it's just a mirror or a reflection of who we already are. All right, as we know, an internal guidance system is something that guides us through life. All right, so the GPS, we're going to use that as the understanding, the mechanics of it. So in order to go to a desired location, you must place in the address, and the GPS will calculate it, leaving a red pin, typically on the monitor, and then drawing a blue line, knowing already where you are. So your concern isn't where I am, it already knows. And then if you follow the GPS step by step, it will actually lead you in the direction to your final destination. You have to listen to every bit of information as you go along. You can't skip over, because it doesn't work. If you don't act on it, the next piece doesn't come. And your internal guidance system works exactly this way. The difference is, instead of typing in an address to a desired location, your imagination is that modality. It is what you do there. So if I imagine I want to do something, it then sets a frequency to where I match it. It gives me a feeling of joy if it's a desired imagination. And then from there, it already knows where I'm at. I don't have to concern myself with it. And in that state, when the energy rises, it actually sends impulses for me to act on one at a time. And if I act on those impulses, or if we act on those impulses, it will move us to the next impulse, and we act on it. Just like a GPS tells you to make a right, and you make a right. And then go 500 feet and make a left. And thereafter, you'll be at your destination, depending how far you're going, but you'll make it. But you must act on the impulses. So thinking about something in the form of an imagination will raise your vibration, but if action doesn't take place, the physical reality doesn't come to life. So you would almost look at action as the midwife to a birthing of a child. That pulls the physical aspect, the child, into the world. Otherwise, it's just an imaginative thing. So action is highly required for this to finish it. So the good thing is, even if you have a negative aspect of moving in a direction, if you don't act on it, it doesn't come to fruition. So this actually helps you understand, because when I talk about imagination, it's not just like imagining the top of the mountain. In order to get groceries and do something that's kind of mundane, you literally have to imagine your actual refrigerator full of groceries in order to take the steps to go to a grocery store to get them. So your imagination is always and constantly, never fails working. What I'm talking about today, and this book is helping us, is to imagine in a direction in which we want to go, something preferential, all right? Obviously, in that field, you're gonna have to get groceries, so even though it's mundane, it's something you still have to do in your imagination, or maybe one day you can get somebody else to get you groceries. So as you follow along and understand how it all works, you actually then start to work on it. You actually start to produce the actions towards it, and you'll see it. So you can actually, as you read the book, most of you have enough, actually all of you have enough experience to reflect back to a time when things were working or things weren't working. And if you step outside of yourself to see it, you can actually see why and how it worked. And this will actually, enjoy the ride will actually help you see that. Because it's not really, it's about fully understanding yourself, because we are our own teachers, you know. Like as I stand up here and I'm talking about this, all I'm doing is facilitating it. I'm learning just as much as you are. No one can actually do it for you. They can influence you, they can encourage you, but you have to take the movement. You just have to know that it's possible. And which takes me to another understanding in this book is beliefs. All right, beliefs tend to stand in the way or actually work for you in getting to where you want to go. So if you have an imaginative thought saying, I want to start a business, and you obviously you're not in business now, so it's something you haven't done. You must have a belief that allows you to do it. If you don't, like it's just an imagination, the belief will actually hinder you from doing it, so therefore the action will be not to move towards it. So if you can't believe you can get somewhere, you're not going to take action towards it. So when that arises, because this will arise, ask yourself, why is it that I hold on to this belief? All right, that's the question. And when you do it, you face the belief, and the fear of it actually diminishes. When you run to belief, it actually gives it weight. And fear is just moving away from a belief. There's nothing to actually fear other than the misunderstanding and facing it. So when you look at beliefs, they're actually they're modalities. They're like vehicles. So if I wanted to say go to Hawaii, the best form of transportation living here would be an airplane. All right. So a car I wouldn't choose because I couldn't make it there. You know. But I don't dishonor the car. I actually need the car to get to the airport where it's going to fly out. So when I look at my beliefs or my vehicles I need to go, I choose them wisely according to what I want to do, where I want to go. So in this case, I might take the car to the airport, but then I don't discard it. I just step out of it and leave, because when I return, I'm going to need it. So all beliefs in that case are actually all valid. It's what I'm talking about here is what belief will work for me to get me in the direction where I want to go. All right? Can you hand me that water, please? Thank you, Rich. Excuse me. So, as we contemplate this, we already know this. So as I'm talking about this, it raises up in us and we have an understanding of it. So now it's about testing it and trying to do it. So we have to start with small stuff based on a belief system, all right? So where we are right now is structured around our belief system. So our belief system is actually a complete kit of where we are. So it's about going there, you look around and you say, okay, what is it that I like or don't like about where I'm going, or do I want to go somewhere? Typically where you are isn't, you may feel like you don't like it, but the reason we don't like where we are sometimes is we've been there too long. Because to get to where we are right now, we had to desire it at some point. So sometimes we hang around a place too long and we move in a circle, because you can move in a circle for 10 miles, or you can move linear for 10 miles, and the linear perspective will just gain you more experience. All right, but in 10 miles you covered in depth. So when you understand that, when you step back and understand what you're doing, so when you walk in a circle for 10 miles, you start also hating the process of walking. But it's not walking hate. It's the laborious, nowhere getting place. And if you don't step back and see that, that's when we get into the rut. And so sitting back and really understanding how your inner guidance system works, you actually fully have to trust it. And trust is an issue. Trust is an automatic thing we do. Even doubt is 100% trust in the other direction in which you want to go. So doubt is trust just not in the direction where we want to go. So when we look at that, we're always trusting. Our inner guidance system is always working. But if you don't understand it and you don't recognize it, it would be like if you're driving your car and your GPS was on and you weren't familiar with GPS, you would turn the stereo off or put on some music so you wouldn't hear it. You wouldn't understand. And that's typically what happens to us. We're not fully in understanding of our inner guidance system, so we don't listen to it. So we typically take responses out of fear rather than out of moving in the direction which we want. So mostly our responses are not from desired, but from fear of safety, and there's nothing really to be safe from if you're moving in the direction which you want to go. All right? So as we get to that place, and as we trust our inner guidance system, and we start moving in a direction, just like as if I was leaving here to go to San Diego, and just say, for argument's sake, I've never been there, and I follow the GPS out of my neighborhood, it might take me a half hour before I get to the I-8, where once I get on there, it'll say San Diego, 89 miles an hour. So there's a validation along the way, but I'm not there yet. But it's validating I'm heading in the right direction, which enables me to pick up the speed and go faster. Because once we start to get signs validating it, we move faster. And that movement, that effortless movement, is the feeling of joy. So that's what this whole is about. It's not about getting to San Diego, it's about getting to a place where I can move in a direction where I feel the energy flowing through me. So the energy of joy is literally energy moving through us, because we're all made of energy. And when we're moving in a direction which we want to go, and we know it, we have no resistance, we let the energy, and that is the exact feeling of joy. Children don't know enough to think they're doing something wrong until mom yells at them. They just climb the tree. And over time, when they did stuff and someone asked them, what'd you do today? You had a great day, it was nice. Well, what'd you do? Well, we were in the woods, we climbed the tree. So all of a sudden, we start to look at this, and we start taking processes around this, and making, doctrines, and say, okay, I was happy, what did I do? Oh, I climbed the tree. So now you forever look for the tree climbing to make you happy. And that's literally putting the carriage in front of the horse. You were happy, you just happened to climb the tree. Because when you actually have this happiness and energy going through you, action is going to be required, or it's going to be taken, and you just happen to climb the tree. But it wasn't the tree that produced the happiness. It was the happiness that enabled you to climb the tree. So children don't know enough to this, that's why they go out and they play. They don't go to the playground and say, okay, I'm going to do 50 seesaws, 30 swings, and 50 rings. But we do that when we go to the gym, and most people don't like that regimented aspect, because somewhere along the line we mistaked what we did and gave it the reason for why we're enjoying, and it's not. And that's how we actually created all these, these type of regimented aspects. Now, that being said, having a regiment and getting lost in it, using it as a focus, can help you overcome that. So sometimes force yourself to go to the gym, and then when you go to the gym and feel good, when you step back, do not give the gym the reason you felt good. It was the energy that was moving through you. You just happened to be working out, lifting weights, or whatever it is you do at the gym. But we actually do this because typically when you enjoy going to the gym, perhaps doing yoga or whatever, is a natural reflection of your joy. Joy isn't the cause, yoga isn't the reflection or the causation of the joy. Yoga is actually the reflection of it. So once we understand that, we're always going to be moving and following our impulse based on our, you get like an imaginative thought, you want to go do something. It doesn't have to be as grand as, owning a business or whatever. It could just be having a great day. And when you say, I'm going to have a great day, and you picture yourself having a great day, that picture of imagination will raise your frequency, all right? And in that moment, you want to drop all insistence of it having to turn out that way. And then that energy will keep you there. And if you act on those impulses as best you can, and take each step, and each impulse that acted on will release another impulse, just like scavenger hunt. You know, you have to get to the first field of information to get to the next field. You know, if someone gave you all 10 fields of information in scavenger hunt, it still would get you to the end of it because you need to know where the first piece was to get to the second piece. But if they hand you the third thinking you're gonna take a shortcut, well, you wouldn't know where the third is because you needed 1 and 2 to get there. So we can't overstep. So each moment in life that we live, and that's all it is, should not be a stepping stone to overlook. It is the support system in which we are. And that's where the joy lies, in this moment, nowhere else. The paradox is you will succeed and see things, but if you think you have to do that in order to gain the joy, you'll always be empty. And we see this time and time again, especially now. Probably more time in history are there more wealthy people and known wealthy, you know, we see it all the time. And they fall short. And money isn't the problem at all. Money is not a problem. Money is just an object, you know, that comes and goes. The problem is they thought when they got there they would be happy. They thought when they climbed the tree they'd be happy. No, you must be happy, then move in the direction. So when you know, if you're actually wanting to start a business and you're excited about the business, you see yourself already in the business, you create that image, and then the energy starts to flow, and that's why we do it. That's the real wealth, is the energy flowing through us. And the natural causation of that is money will come. Money has to come, but that's not why we do it. And that's the paradox understanding. So we don't do it for the money, we do it for the joy, but money will show up and it will represent it to keep knowing. It's like the sign saying San Diego, 180 miles away. You know you're in the right direction. Now you can just relax and cruise. Did you have a question?
No, I'll be about that.
What's
I
that?
was- nothing.
Oh, is it time?
Yeah, no, I was just,
All right. It's okay, we're all
I
friends
was
here.
just telling you,
What?
no, I didn't have a question.
You have a question? All right. So, now, are we getting, like, how does everyone feel right now? Let me ask you guys a question. How do you feel right now?
I feel like you're like
All right, you feel relaxed, all right.
He wants to climb a tree.
Yeah, the nice thing is we're actually in a state of relaxed, and he's a troublemaker, but we're in that state. Actually, the scientists now are able to measure this and understand the validation of it. Even though it's funny, we don't necessarily need the validation of it. It's like, I know somebody that was wearing a Fitbit to see how they were sleeping at night, and they wake up and they would have to look at their watch. Oh, I slept pretty good. But don't you really know? I guess it's fun for the scientists to figure out, you know, the calibration of sleep, but you don't really know. You know when you're having a good time. And when you're in that state, know that the impulses that come, act on them as best you can. And they'll lead you to the next thing and to the next thing. And next thing you know, it's the leading in the movement of non-traffic that makes you feel good. And you'll always experience the physical world. Once you take action, you actually materialize the physical world into it. Quantum physics teaches us this. If there's no focus, everything is a field, a wave of energy. But once we focus, we actually solidify an electronical particle into solidification, and it makes it solid. So our focus onto something makes it so. Whether it's preferential or non-preferential, we make it so. So if you're actually creating a lot of non-preferential, know that you created it so you can change it. You can transform it. You can't get rid of energy, but you can transform energy. So, you know. All right, are we understanding?
What do you mean you can transform energy in reference to what you're talking about?
Yeah, so energy can easily be transformed. So you look at different, so let's look at mechanical aspects of water. So when I change the, so if I have an ice cube and I change the energy, it transforms into, depending on you know, how hot I get, it can change into water and then eventually to steam. So it's water, but the energy actually transfers into something else. So it's the easiest way to explain it. But I can literally have a negative experience. And to understand negative experiences, all experiences are neutral in their situation. We give it the meaning. But as people know, any situation is a mere prop. So if I had to say a broom, all right, I can take a broom, turn it around, and go out and play stickball with my friends. It's no longer a broom, it's a stickball bat. Or I can sweep the very street I'm doing it. So I actually, in that moment, changed the meaning of it. And all situations in life are neutral. We give it meaning. So a lot of times we were taught what the meaning of this situation was, and there's the effect we get, via joy or via sadness. So when we start to understand that, and it's not about dishonoring your beliefs, it's about looking at your beliefs and understanding, is this working for me? And focusing on breaking apart. Because the thing you want to do is dishonor your beliefs, because that's going to get you running through the woods, looking over your shoulder, and running into a tree. That's where fear comes. Fear comes is not honoring your beliefs. But when you look at a belief and say, this is not working for me, you actually don't get rid of the belief, you transform the belief. You know? So things aren't going good for me right now. Well, they could be worse. You started transforming the belief. You start feeling a little better. You didn't go, you don't want to do 100 miles an hour one direction and make a U-turn, because it's not going to turn out well. But if you know you're doing 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, taking your foot off the gas transforms the energy. You're slowing it down. Then once I slow it down, then I have the ability to know where to actually find an exit, get off, or whatever it is, and make the U-turn. But when I make the U-turn, I'm doing it at a point where I'm at a neutral state. So if I have a belief that's negative, get it to a neutral state, and then you can turn around and transform it. And that's the power we actually possess. We have the ability to do that. And then the belief will exist, but it no longer, just like the car exists, but I'm on the airplane heading to Hawaii. So I'm no longer thinking about it. So it's not about getting rid of. People try to get rid of beliefs. You can't. Transform them. Make them your friend. Because they served you at one point. It's just the holding on to it.
Does your book talk about this
It
directly?
does. It does.
Specifically, I mean? Thank you.
Yeah, it does. You're welcome. Any other questions? Everybody? All right. Yeah, so, and then that's just it. If you understand, you can literally transform your beliefs. Just start looking at beliefs that aren't working for you. And look at them, just because, the running away from is what makes us scared. Because we all have desires. And, whether or not you hide them away, they're always going to pop up because they're our natural state. Like, there's a lot of psychological studies on people and, the different, I think there's 7 methods, it keeps changing. But there's things that you're acclimated to do, all right, and come to do. It's like, maybe society says we should do this, although that's changing. This profession's better than this. But we know that's not true. So we all are set to a frequency to do something, and it's always pulling at you, all right? The feeling of the pulling is because if you're moving this way, and the energy is pulling you this way, that's the tug of war. But if you're moving in the direction of it, you don't feel it. It feels good. It's joyful. So we all have desires. And it's not the desire actually is to move in the direction of fulfillment. So even if you get the business, then something else will come along thereafter. Someone like Bill Gates probably dreamt, about starting a huge corporation. Well, he did that. Now his dreams are perhaps trying to get rid of malaria in Africa. They moved on, But I don't believe when he was starting at Microsoft in New Mexico, he was thinking about malaria in Africa. That came later. I'm glad I'm amusing you guys. But, and I make this to be obvious because it's very simple. And that's why in the book, I don't get into a lot of storytelling, examples of like perhaps me or whatever. The reason being is I don't want people to think that you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. There's no, you choose to do it. Your internal guidance system will tell you how to get to where you want to go. Because it knows where you are. Because, like, for me to get to San Diego from where I am, and for you to get to San Diego where you are, in the beginning it's going to be different. Because unless we live in the same house, it's going to be a different direction. There's going to be a point where we're going to follow the same directions if we're going to the same place in San Diego. But this is why we can't offer up advice, and nor should we. But we can actually help people along with their journey by telling them, listen to your internal, listen to your gut, as they say, or listen to your heart, And, and you will get to, as you start to look at this, you will understand the difference between impulses of fear and impulses of joy. When you get an impulse of fear, sit on the couch, turn the TV on. It will go away. Because once you act on it, you then solidify it. But even if you do, no big deal. Again, you can transform that. So, and once you get to understand this, you'll only act on your impulses of your preferential outputs. And then you get better at this. But in the beginning, it's, this is why we came here. We came here to deal with contrast, all right? We think it's supposed to be easier. It is supposed to be easy, but we want to avoid contrast. And in the physical world, you need up and you need down. You need dark and light. Too much light, you're blinded. Too much dark, you simply can't see. But just the right amount of exposure of light and darkness enables us to see during the day, and then more darkness comes in, enables us to see the stars and the moon at night. But that's not bad, it's just contrast. But we want to avoid contrast. You can't. In order for physics, like a skateboarder, to move beyond the point of where they are higher, they need to embrace the downward slope and get up. So this point, as we start looking at this concept, because this may be a new concept for other people, but this is our natural state. Instead of living life like this, we start living it like this. And then you actually embrace the downward slope to get up. So you embrace the rain. You embrace the times when you go to sleep or tired, because you know what it's about to bring. But if you don't think you're supposed to be tired, that's all you're gonna get is tired. You're chasing tired now. So if a skateboarder was scared of going down, where are they gonna end up? Right here. Then they have to walk back up and get the body to carry them out. So they keep trying to, where they embrace it. And there's nothing to be scared about,
So, since it would seem to be the case that most of the beliefs that are keeping us from just being in that natural flow are unconscious, what do you recommend, like, how do we uncover those beliefs so that we can readjust?
Well, the beauty, so when you start feeling like sad or pain or frustration, all right, it's the same as the GPS saying recalculate because you missed the right-hand turn. So when you use those emotions such as pain, anger, or whatever, realize they aren't punishment. They're telling you to let go.
I get that, but there, and you were explaining about how, your feel about what's happening for you in the moment is a good judge of, oh, I went too far this way, I need to go that way. But what about the beliefs that keep you stuck from moving in the first place?
Well, ask
Or
yourself, why do I hold on to that belief?
Well, how do you know what it is, since most of them are unconscious? Most of us are, sitting around doing the same things over and over and over again.
Yeah, but
Because we're 64 years old and have these patterns in place. How do we bring them to consciousness so that we can work with them?
all right. So, is there a specific belief that you want to bring up, or should I just?
They're unconscious, I don't know.
All right. So, can I ask you something? Is there something you feel that isn't happening, or moving in a direction? Because a lot of it too is we have to stop thinking we have to succeed. Because being successful isn't getting to some place. Getting to some place just fulfills the journey. But so a lot of times we think we're supposed to be where we aren't, but we are supposed to be exactly where we are. And when you understand that, that feeling goes away. And then from that neutral standpoint, you can start seeing it. That's how we bring conscious to it. The mere fact that you brought that question up, you're not unconscious to it. If you were unconscious to it, you would have left. So you're conscious to it. And it's true. We are a lot more better off than we think. We think we are messed up. We are not. We think we're supposed to be somewhere else, but we're not. Wherever you are, you can get to wherever you go. We live on a round planet, even in the universe. So it doesn't matter what direction you're going, you can get there. If you want to get to San Diego, you can head east. It's gonna take you a long time. But when we become conscious of it and getting there as soon as possible, you then step back and know that going west. So as you just keep going, if you start feeling the struggle, stop and ask yourself, why do I feel the struggle? Where does this pain come from? And then it will lift something like an onion, peel it away. And you might have to peel, there may be layers of beliefs that are stopping you. But what happens is, a lot of times, you might say, okay, I want to start a business, and you get excited about it. And all of a sudden you start dealing with all these beliefs that say you can't, and you start layering it. And then you get to the bottom layer, and you realize, I don't need to start the business now. My idea of the business allowed me to peel back that onion, and that was the purpose of it. Like I said, you have to drop all insistence of what has to happen. You know, there's a story that happened to me one time. It's pretty obvious, that's why I like to tell it. There was one day I was off from work running around doing errands, and I get home and there was something I had to do and it was nagging me. I knew I had to do it, but I completely forgot what it was. So I had enough, and I didn't want to sit there, so I'm like, let me go to a movie. So I look up what time the movie's playing. I'm like, okay, if I leave now, I can make it. I get in my car and I'm driving. And as I'm driving, a van pulls up beside me and there's a bumper sticker on the side that said Guitar Center. Well, I had to go to Guitar Center to get a microphone. So I ditched the movie and went to Guitar Center. So when I became conscious aware, it actually moved me in that direction. So sometimes the movie came to me, enabling me to go do it. Your inner guidance system is always and forever working for you. So when you feel good, move in the direction, and it will show you to the belief that no longer works for you. Just trust it. It will. You know? And it's not that the belief was bad, it's not moving in the direction in which you want to go. Well, you're just simply done with it, you know? Eventually you have to get off the tricycle to get onto the bicycle. But the tricycle serves its purpose. But if you don't think, or you think that the only vehicle is a tricycle, then you're going to start to hate the tricycle, because it becomes your prison. But if you actually start to do it, eventually everyone gets off the tricycle. Just try not to condemn the tricycle, because the next kid wants it. All right, does that help a little bit?
I didn't really answer my question, but I'll keep listening, maybe it'll pop up.
All right. Yeah, all right, yeah, because, so you feel like there's a belief, but you don't know what it is. And a lot of times, you know, and I'm not a psychologist, but a lot of times the belief is a belief of unworthiness. And it's a general belief that most people have. But as we look at it, if you weren't worthy, you would not be born. That's a game we play with ourselves. Empirically, it is not true. We can actually pretend it's true, just like an actor plays a role in a movie, but that's not who they are. So we can pretend. So worthiness is typically at the tipping point, the first layer of an onion. And once we actually say, I'm worthy of happiness, you know, people say, I'm worthy of $1 million because they think it's going to happen. It's a long way to go. You know, I'm worthy of happiness, I'm worthy of feeling good. And when you actually feel that, then things start to come, you act on it, and then those beliefs start to peel away, and you start transforming. So, a lot of times it starts with the unworthiness, and that's false. Everyone here is worthy. The tapestry that's made to this universe takes all 7 billion human beings on this planet, and more to come. If you would take, say, a 2,000 puzzle piece, and if you removed one as the most significant piece, and one as the least significant piece, what would you have is 2 holes in the puzzle. Because it's impossible to have one more significant than the other. And that derives from feeling the thing of not deservability. But we are deserving. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. So as we lighten up on that, and that's all enlightenment means. It means lighten up on yourself, because we're here having an experience in the physical world, and we think we're supposed to be elsewhere. We're not. You know? There's other places in the cosmos, not to get in there, that don't deal with this physical world, but we're here. It's like, you know, for football players on the field getting banged around, like, what's going on? Like, you chose to play football. And when you understand that, you get better at getting banged around. It's part of the game. And that's why we came here, it's a game. So the more we fall into the field of joy, the better off the ride is. Hence, Enjoy the ride. And it is, it's about, when you actually learn to if you need a distraction to feel better, in that moment of feeling better, these impulses of thought will come to you revealing. It'll come to you. It might come to you in a week or in a day, you know? But the fact that you ask the question, because you cannot ask a question unless you already contain the answer. It's impossible. Right? A quarter is just a quarter, but it contains a head and a tail. So when we're talking the duality in the physical world, up and down is duality. But it just is. So
That's Aristotle needs to be blown over in his grave somewhere. I don't accept a reality that's just dual. I believe in the continuum.
oh no, there is continuum, but in the physical world, it's about duality. So it's like, in other words, the rules on a football field don't apply to the rules at Harvard College, right? So yeah, no, I agree. And so, but we're here, so everyone wants to be, like when you, in fall, they want to be playing baseball, well, you're in the wrong season. So we came and chose to have this experience in the physical world. So Aristotle was right, because when we go to the movies, to watch a movie, we're separate.
Aristotle ruined Western civilization.
Well, well, the thing is, I'm not here to defend or support Aristotle. All right? What it is whatever belief you have, it will be supported. It's a complete kit. So I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but your belief will give you evidence to your belief. If you believe Aristotle ruined Western civilization, you will find it. But somebody else might think not so, and they'll find it too. You know, that's kind of the quandary we're in with the two parties right now running our country. They both have their beliefs, and the argument trying to get there.
There is the evidence.
Let's go climb a tree.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I bring that as a point because their beliefs are right, but when you actually say that other people have to believe that, that's where we fall short. In other words, I don't have to get everyone to believe I can write a book in order for me to write a book. I just write a book, right? So when we need 51% of people to get to agree with us, that's where the belief structure breaks down. So all beliefs are valid. And when we know that, then I choose a belief that will help me out. All right, so I don't Aristotle had his points. I'm not a study of Aristotle, but I know who he is. But I'm not here to talk about it. All I'm here to talk about is when you choose a belief, the physics will back it up, whether it's a belief of horror or joy. That's all this book is about. So then it's up to us to choose what we want to believe. And my suggestion is, if it's not working for you, why do you believe it? If it doesn't make you feel good, why are you believing it? You have the right to believe it, and I would never take that away. But if it doesn't make you feel good, why would you believe that? Because there's other beliefs that can make you feel good. You know? Greenland and Hawaii both exist. But if I want to get a tan, I'm not going to Greenland. You know? So I would choose Hawaii, but I would not condemn or need to even bother with Greenland. Because I have nothing against Greenland. In order to have the contrast of hot and cold, I need Greenland and I need Hawaii. That's, because without it, you wouldn't know, if everything was blue, you wouldn't know what blue was. The contrast is what creates the difference. We're all connected. Every human being here is connected. Just like my arms are connected to my body. But my right arm and my left arm are having different experiences. But they're all connected. So, yeah. So when we start to actually just sink that concept in, you actually start to loosen up, and then you could choose beliefs that work for you, rather than trying to debate a belief, whether it's right or wrong. If it doesn't feel good, it's not right for you. It doesn't mean it's right, wrong for somebody else. It's the world is getting too critical onto what you and I should believe, and that's that's arrogance to me. I don't tell anyone what they should believe. My beliefs give me energy to flow. That's why I don't tell people, like they ask me, well, what do you do to stay happy? I'm like, it's not what I do, it's how I feel. And today I might do this, tomorrow I might do that. And that's why I don't offer that, it becomes arrogant. All right. Any more questions?
I read on the back of your book that there was a life-changing event that brought you to these beliefs, and I assume then to writing the book. Would you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. When I was 20 years old, my younger brother had passed away. He was killed in a car wreck. And, you know, at that age, you're very impressionable. You actually, you know, for me, you grow up a certain way. You do this, you go to school, you get in college, you do this. So I had this set of beliefs that would get me to this place in time where I rediscovered joy. Well, when he died, that house of cards fell down. So it actually made me rethink. I pushed against it for many years. So I realized there's gotta be something else out there. So it led me to actually contemplate what I was told, what is true, and so I couldn't believe that this could happen. The pain came from, as I came to understand, it came from the inability to accept it. And so that actually changed the way I thought. And then over time, I started thinking, it's kind of how I came to write this book. I didn't set out to write a book. I didn't, you know, do it. Just one day I was writing concepts down, and Karen, my lovely Karen, told me, hey, you got a book here. So then that set on forth, and I acted on my impulses, and it led me to writing a book. And now if I consciously want to do something now, I start to understand how it works. And then I put my conscious effort towards it, and then it will start moving that way. But that incident changed the way I look at life. You know, I would have never chose that. But again, you can wake up by stubbing your toe. You don't need something crashing down on you to wake up to it. Thanks for asking.
So, it sounds like, we could have something really bad happen to us, but our perspective on it is pretty critical in how we go about the rest of our life.
It can. Well, the beautiful thing about, they say time heals all wounds. Time doesn't heal the wound. Over time, you're going to naturally choose different perspectives. Even if you hold a perspective onto a side of something, it loosens up. It's always shifting. You can never hold the same perspective, just like you can never see the same angle of the sun, even if you live for 1 million years, twice, because we're moving. So as we start to shift and get to these moments of neutrality, you have the ability to say, this perspective on what happened to me is painstaking. And then you have the ability to shift it slightly and loosen up the pain. And from that place of loosening up the pain, you shift it more, and shift it more. Because over time, there's horrendous things happen. Viktor Frankl had written a book about his experience in Auschwitz he was being operated on by these doctors without any anesthesia. But when he wrote that book, he turned that into a good thing. Sure, when he was laying on a table, he wasn't feeling that. But eventually, he was able to shift his perspective, and the reason he survived was to tell the story. And that story became his champion. So that's how we start to look at it. That's why every situation is a neutral prop. We give it meaning. We're the ones who actually say it's good or bad. And I would never take that away from anybody. If someone thinks something's bad, don't try to talk them out of it. It's just like telling someone to make a U-turn when you're in the car next to them doing 100. You're both gonna die. You're gonna argue. You soften it up. Agree with them, validate it. Validate yourself. You went through this horrific thing, whatever it was. And as you start to validate, you loosen yourself up and take the foot off the gas. The car slows down. When it slows down, you feel better. And from a better stance, you have the ability to shift your perspective in the direction in which it's going to work for you, not against you. Because things do happen to us, you know? I'm not saying bad things don't happen, but over time, you know, slavery produced Martin Luther King. You know, not that he would ask for it. That was a bad thing. It was a bad time in our history, but it produced an amazing man. So if you took slavery away, there's no Martin Luther King, right? I'm not justifying at all what happened, but he took something that was horrific and made it into a champion of not just black people, but all people. But if that thing never happened, he couldn't have championed. Couldn't, make everyone feel good, regardless of what color they are. But it's not to condone the actions that were taken in that time. But he was able to turn it around and create light out of it. We can make light out of darkness. It just takes one match. Right?
But I feel like I'm a slow learner because it's taken me 25 years to
We're all slow learners.
shift my perspective.
No, but you're smiling, right?
I am.
So that's what we do. Again, we're actually where we want to be more than we know.
Okay.
We think we're supposed to be, at a better place. We're not. This is where we're supposed to be, in the mud, having fun like children. And then there's a shower waiting for us. But we think we're not supposed to be here. The frustration of not supposed to be in traffic creates the traffic, not the traffic. So you're waking up. And when you loosen up on yourself, lighten up on yourself, you become enlightened in that moment. And in enlightenment, things come to you. An enlightenment state is when Einstein came up with the idea of relativity. He wasn't working on it. He was 16 years old when the thought just popped into his head. It took him 10 years to write down the equation for the rest of us to see what he was talking about. But it was a moment of time that came in. Bam. And when you're in that state, it happens. We're not always there, And if you try and always get there, you push yourself away from it. But sometimes the darkest moments move us into the light. So we don't condone what the darkness brought, but we wish it well, and because it got us to where we are.
All right. Anything else?
All right, well, I'd like to thank Changing Hands Bookstore for letting me have this talk, and you wonderful people for coming out on the Thursday evening.